Tree Country 1330 WTRE. Good morning. It's 7:31, and good morning, Mayor Marsh.
Good morning, Emily, and good morning to everyone in WTRE country.
That's right. It's a little foggy out there, isn't it?
Happy foggy Thursday morning.
It is.
It is very dense. When I was driving over here this morning, I was like, wow, this is pretty extreme. If schools were in, everybody's happy they're on summer break, but
they would be delayed.
Be delayed for sure.
I was coming up to the stoplight at the bypass, and I was like, I can't really see that stoplight from very far away. So
right.
Just really pay attention as you're out and about.
That's right.
So what's been going on? We didn't get to see you last week, so.
Yeah, I was traveling last week for work, so was unable to be here, but I think the Mayor's Youth Council was here.
They did a great job.
That's good.
Yes.
You didn't scare them too much.
I tried not to.
Well.
They were pretty pumped. It was the last day of school, so.
They had a lot to get to that day.
I was really proud of them because they're like, we do need to go out a little bit early because we have to get to school. I was like, God,
right.
Way to be good students.
That's right.
Last day, I'm thinking, done.
The other days that they've been here with me during the year, they ask if I'll write them a note so that they can be 2.5 hours late.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quite the difference on the last day of school, right?
I'm sure they talked about their 5K.
They did.
So that's coming up, which is great. We don't have to necessarily rehash that, but they're very excited about that event, and they did a really nice job with it last year. So
registration's open, I believe.
I believe so, and you can do it. They've got it posted on their social media platforms, and I know that we've shared it from the city's page as well. So if you want to sign up for that, it's out at Rebecca Park, June 14th, 5K. And it's $15. You do get the T-shirt, I think, in that as well, or maybe the T-shirt's extra. And then 17 unders, $5, and 5 and unders free. So it's a great family activity, and it'll be a beautiful morning, hopefully, out in Rebecca Park.
You're going to run along with them?
I am not.
You're not going to do that?
No, but thank you for the question.
I just wanted to make sure.
Much
just
appreciated.
checking.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
So what's been going on around the city?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening. I want to be sure that we cover. We've got our next community cookout next week. I'll rehash that at the end of the show, but that's next Thursday evening. It is on Northeast Street, over between 5th and Joram. So that is like east of the fire station, sort of between the fire station and Lincoln Street, out in there. So you can find us in that region. But boy, the kind of the big news is, I guess, as we approach I know it doesn't really look like it, but the Washington Street project is about to flip. And so then it will move over to the Franklin Street side of the north part of the square. A lot of directions in here, the east side of the north part of the square. But that is going to be June 11th. That's their targeted date for the big flip.
And will that intersection shut down?
Yeah, they're going
like Broadway did.
They're going to close Franklin Street. Obviously, Franklin is impactful, but a little less impactful, just less traffic count per day than Broadway. So that will make the change. We want to remind everyone to be very careful and cognizant and making sure we're still stopping at all the stop signs. They are still there. They're still in play. They're still legally binding just because of the construction. Now, the little section of Washington between sort of First Financial and Pickers Paradise, that's going to stay closed because of the tightness of the construction site. They need some room to work, and we're able to kind of do this halves process, where we're keeping half of the square open, generally for access to the courthouse and businesses and making it a little bit easier. They just need a little bit of room to work in. They also have another lot down by City Hall that they're using as their main staging, but they're sort of have this secondary staging so that we don't have to have the whole north side of the square closed. Sort of like we did on Franklin Street,
sure,
where the whole block was closed for the whole process. That allowed them to work inside the space. So while the north part of Washington Street will be open, that little section is going to remain closed while they start finishing up the project. There's a lot to do yet, but the Fall Festival date is looming large, which is impossible to talk about, right? We just had Memorial Day, but
yeah,
that date is on everyone's calendar for that project, and they've been making really great progress.
I'm going to say, just driving through it seems like they're progressing quickly. I mean, and even with the weather we've had, it seems like they've continued to push on. So
yeah, the great part about this project, obviously you can't work in the pouring down rain, but they're also working off of concrete and asphalt, and so the mud level isn't quite as bad as new construction, or like on our East Side Trail project that's much more impactful than this one. But they've been doing a really great job, and the detail work takes a lot of time. So there's a lot of work to do there yet, and we're excited to see it starting to come to fruition. You can really start to see it taking shape now.
I noticed yesterday I drove through and I was like, you really see it happening. Like it looks very nice so far, and all businesses are open, easily accessible. So make sure and shop downtown. No problems there.
Yep, they're all still accessible, open. Shooty is working with the individual businesses on pouring concrete on days that they are least impacted or trying to minimize the impacts possible. I saw where they had some up to the front of the building tore out, so I assume that's getting poured probably today, and then that'll be good to go, tomorrow.
Very good. Moving right along, it is.
That's right. And speaking of the East Side Trail piece, there's asphalt down. I don't know if they got all the surface down yesterday or not, but they had all of the bottom layer completed on Tuesday. So you can, again, start to see that taking shape and fruition. It's going to be done by next Friday, which is the first concert in the park series, summer concert series. But it's not going to be, done. In that we've got a ribbon cutting coming up sometime in June with DNR, the Next Level Trails program, provided a pretty substantial amount of funding for that trail project. So we want to be sure that we're recognizing our state partners and getting some grass to grow. That's going to be a bit of the problem for the contractors, getting the grass to grow here in June. It's been a cool, wet May, so it's probably a pretty good grass growing season. But they've sort of missed that boat.
It'll happen.
It will.
The grass will come.
Yeah, they'll get it. But it's a lot of trail activity, or it's a lot of trail work when you talk about connecting Pirate Park to Rebecca Park over to Main Street and the library, and extending the original network, which is even better. And I know somebody's going to say, well, why does it just stop at the Main Street? It just dead ends there. We are working with NDOT to put in a connection from there all the way into Lincoln Street downtown, so that that'll probably be 2028 when NDOT does their Main Street reconstruction project. So we've been working with them. We've got their commitments. They're on board with getting that installed. So this was a great opportunity to get the link put in, built, and with some great grant dollars to help that with Main Street. All of that, all the infrastructure work generally is paid for through the NDOT funds. So we're not necessarily a partner in that. NDOT's partnering with us, which is great. And we're able to connect those two when they redo the project. So yes, I know it looks like it just dead ends into space and it doesn't make any sense. But it will. Hold tight, and barring some massive issue, which I don't think is going to happen at this point, then we'll be connected into downtown.
We had the library on last week, I think it was, and they're so excited about their portion with the story books and getting all that going. So
yeah, and that's one of those great opportunities where the storybook walk, I had not heard of those before, and they came and said, do you mind if we partner and add this? And I said, no, that sounds like a great thing. And Zach, who's our director of public projects in the city, is got some young kids, and he was all about the story walk, right? And how do we incorporate that? So there's lots of opportunities. They've partnered. The library's hired the contractor to get that installed as a part of the project too. So I don't know when they're expected to have that done, but I would assume once they get sort of finalized grading to the trail complete, then they'll go back and add those in.
Very good. Veteran banners, new ones are hung up.
New ones are up. They were up before Memorial Day, and the old ones are available at City Hall for pickup. We've had a lot of folks come in and get theirs, or their families, or somebody that they know already, but you can do that between 8 and noon, 1 and 4 today and tomorrow. And then after that, we're gonna have to get rid of them. So we can't keep them forever. But if you want them, feel free to come by the front door at City Hall on Washington Street. And there's kind of a sign out sheet, just name and phone number to make sure that we can track down who picked them up. We had somebody come in the other day that was like, well, it's not here. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the list. Oh, this person got it. Oh, that's such and such. Okay. Right, so at least they know where it went,
where it's at.
And we only have one. They're on first come, first serve. We're not ID checking and policing who's picking up what, when, where, how, and why. But it's a good opportunity to get them back into the community. 3 years is a long time to have them up, so most people don't realize how big they actually are. and they're pretty faded, but they did their job. And now we've got the next group up. We've changed the design a little bit. We've made them a little bit bigger. We've had some feedback about legibility of the names, and so I think the second version's a lot better at that. And then we've got some banners. There's some blank spots still, and I've had some folks ask about that as well. We are in the process of getting the farmers market banners up. So a third of the banners on Veterans and Lincoln Street are going to be like rotating seasonal. So we're going to do the farmers market, fall festival, the holiday walk in downtown, and then we've got a winter one for those few months in January, February, March that we don't really have much going on. And then the farmers market ones will be back up.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very
so
good.
change it up every now and then a little bit too. And we're still able to, honor over 80 veterans. And I think the intention is probably about 2 years, and then we'll do it again.
Rotate again. Yeah, very good. Ready funds being released?
There hasn't been any released from Ready 2, but there has been some really good progress made on timelines. Now you're about to say, well, what's the timeline? Well, they haven't really said what the timeline is, just that there's progress being made on the timeline. So that's positive. That's good, and it's good for us as a region. We continue to be a leader across the state with our Accelerate Rural Indiana region, and the success of our region has kind of put us not at a standstill, but at a little bit of a slowdown because we're not able to access the Ready 2.0 dollars yet. Some of those projects are being held up from getting moving or progressing at the rate that they need to progress at. So we're excited to see IEDC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, re-engage and reinitiate that. The Secretary of Commerce was here last week for a meeting, and it was while I was out of town, unfortunately, but I think it went really well. And there was a lot of good representation from our region and our district about what it is that we're doing and the importance of those dollars and how we've utilized them to really fulfill the mission of, rural development and being successful in rural development. And I think that the work being done by ARI only drives the mission for that even more successfully. And I was talking to someone yesterday that we're successful because we are competing with each other, but we're not, right?
Sure.
What's good for the region is good for everybody. And I think that message was received well by the Secretary of Commerce. And if we can get the Ready $2 back into the pipeline, then I think we'll be able to get moving a little bit more on some other things as well.
So we're still a wait and see.
We are.
Ish.
Yeah. But,
You
there's
can add ish this
ish.
week.
Yeah. We're waiting, seeing ish. It's better than it has been. How's that? And, there's Ready $1 that are being implemented. Liberty Lakes had Ready $1. The Washington Street project has Ready $1. We're working to add some additional features and benefits, I think, to the Washington Street project. We're not quite there yet, but those will be Ready dollars as well. So we're still implementing Ready 1. There is a lot pending on Ready 2, and so that's why we're focused on that.
We'll sit and wait. Ish.
Ish. Yeah.
That's right. Any update as far as what the impact from state changes as far as the property taxes and all of that?
It's the week of ish. The finance company that we use, which we've used for the last 5 years, is phenomenal. They do a lot of work statewide. They're sort of a small shop, but they're growing, and they've developed a very complex table that they input some data into, and then it sort of spits out a number. And we're still working through what our numbers are to input into said table. So yes, but no. In that we are starting to get a better idea of what the impacts are going to be as it relates to, the governor's touted historic significant meaningful tax relief that is going to show up in some places and not in others. And then the second part of that we talked about right here. If you're a frequent listener of this program, you've heard me talk about it, but it wasn't really talked about on the big stages. Is that the income tax piece is how they have tasked governments, local units of government, with recouping their dollars. So now the discussion switches over to implementation and increases in income taxes to offset the property tax piece, because I know there's a lot of discussion at the national level about efficiencies, but when you start to look at what it is locally, over 60 some percent of our budget is police and fire. General fund is police and fire. We have to either have serious conversations about that, or we look for ulterior ways to fund agencies. And when you look at street departments, most of that is through MVH, which is not property tax based. There's very, very few personnel, and it's really less than 10, but then it's really only about 5 actual salaries are paid for out of general fund, which is what property taxes support outside of police and fire. And obviously personnel cost is the highest line item. Insurance and benefits is a very expensive line item. Property insurance, utilities, those kinds of items that we don't control, right? There's just about nothing that we can do to control utility cost. We've made efficiencies in LED lighting, but we still have to run pumps and things on generalized electric. So there's a lot of unknowns. The General Assembly has pretty well made it clear that they intend to come back and work on the income tax thing again next session, so they don't really think that they probably allowed enough room to increase income tax in order to compensate for the losses in property tax revenue, which means that it's hard to plan for what that impact looks like in between 27 and 28. That's when all of this really takes effect. So the long-term planning is hard. We work on a 10-year capital improvement plan. I mean, we look at our finances 10 years in the future.
Right.
Obviously, we do our budget one year. We do our budget in July for the following year, but we are looking at what the financial impact of things are going to be for every year between now and 2035. And we started doing that when I came into office as a way to help us plan for capital expenditures, to better cash flow, and to make sure that our departments had what we needed when we needed them in a reasonable amount of replacement time. Fire trucks are $1 million to $2 million a unit. You want to know that that's coming. Dump trucks are $250,000 to $350,000 before you really start putting anything on them. And those items, garbage trucks are specialty equipment, and they're very, very expensive. So those things we look at on a 10-year plan. It's not like we just started talking about, buying a fire truck next year, yesterday. We've been talking about it for 5 years. It's not like we talked about buying a garbage truck yesterday. We talked about it 5 years ago. So it is really a part of this big plan. And when you really upset the monopoly board on funding, that's a problem. And the fee structure that helps cover some of those things, like the general fund subsidizes our street and sanitation department pretty heavily. So the trash fees are lower because there's a subsidy from the general fund. Well, when you reduce general fund revenue, that may shift some of that cost. So we have to look at all of those items. We have to look at the income tax implications. We have to look at the property tax, business personal property tax implications. And so it's a very, very complex problem and a very complex bill. And we're not quite there yet, but we do have to get our budget ready to start that process in July. So our departments have already started working on that.
So it can really impact so many different things. It's not as far as costs that may be handed down, unfortunately, to citizens.
We don't.
I mean, you try not to do that, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, we have to take trash to the landfill, and if the landfill increases their tipping fees, we have to pay it. There's not like a better option for that. We don't. The example I always give is we buy toilet papers for the offices and for public restrooms, etc. And governments buy toilet paper. We don't manufacture toilet paper. If the cost of toilet paper goes up, we pay it as well. We don't manufacture gasoline. We don't manufacture tires. So local units of government are not immune from price increases. We are all cognizantly aware that things are more expensive than they were 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so it's governments are not immune to that. And we have to be competitive with our pay. And we used to be more than competitive, and now we are competitive. That's a change, and something that we've got to be cognizant of. And our teams do a really great job of working with the resources and the tools that we have. I'm proud of the work that they do every day, and they go above and beyond. And we have a duty to make sure that their work environment is safe, clean, that they have the tools necessary, and that we're providing them, with the best equipment options that we can afford. And I think that that's something that we as a community have been striving to do and are doing. It's not always the latest and greatest, but it doesn't have to be the oldest and the worst either.
We'll wait and see ish what happens.
Yeah,
that's a really big ish one.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's just hard to put a number on it and roll it out, and without lots of background still happening, and it really impacts our budget for next year. So this year, we're not really seeing any impacts, which is great, right? We're able to function, keep going. We're working through our processes. It's steady as it goes. But, as we start the budget process, which is a June, July process, it's not like we're late. We're right on schedule. Mm-hmm. But it's going to complicate that conversation some.
All right. Heavy Trash Week is complete.
It is done. It is over. I went over and met with our team this morning and had a great, thank you conversation and chat with them and just check in. Generally, of course, this is the one we're doing this year, only one. We're optimistic that we can, get it all in, and they were able to complete heavy trash inside the workday, which is great. It's good for them. It's good for us. It's good for everybody. Lots of unbroken down cardboard, right? I don't get that. We can throw it in the recycling can. You get recycling every 2 weeks. Yeah. It's a service provided to you. Please utilize that. And then it doesn't go in the landfill for sure, but then also it saves a lot of time and effort. And then lots of just like really loose, generalized trash. If you need another trash can, you can get one of those. They're not terribly expensive. There's a deposit, but then I think it's like $4 or $5 a month to get a whole nother 96-gallon toter. So if that's an option that you want to pursue, please do that. And construction debris has been cut down significantly, which is good, but there's still some. And unfortunately, and most frustratingly for just about everyone involved, there's a lot of just dumping that's going on where people just bring in a trailer load of stuff and just dump it in their yard. That's really not the intention of this. We've tried to improve this process for every year. I mean, it's really an every year conversation, and we'll have it again about, it's unfortunately, it's just abuse of not only the system, but of our team, right? And you dump it out, and it's just really not what it's for, right? It's if you have a couch, if you have maybe some tile or something that you did, it's supposed to be a household service, not a contractor remodel or dump it out on the yard kind of thing. Or, you save every cardboard box you've gotten in the last year, and then it rains and it turns into a giant pile of wet paper. So I don't know. We'll probably circle back with them and chat about what improvements they'd like to see again. But generally, lots of great work and compliance, I guess. But many, many kudos to our team who works very long hours. That's not a lot of fun, and it always rains during Heavy Trash Week.
I just felt bad for them all week because it was a steady week of rain.
And we've talked about moving it back, but then, of course, it's not fun to do when it's 200 degrees out either. Right. So it's sort of a balance. We usually wait to get our summer help here, and so they were here, and
you welcomed them right in, didn't you?
Falls in May. That's it. But our team's great. They did a great job. Appreciate all the work that they've done to make that event successful and provide that service as an amenity in our community. It is something a lot of communities charge extra for, or you get one item, or you get one tag to put on one item kind of thing. It's not, we do it differently than a lot of places. Not saying that's bad, but I
don't
think
abuse it.
The service that we provide is above and beyond a lot of places, that's for sure.
All right. Good job to the guys, though.
Yeah. Many thanks to them.
All right. So we're moving into summer weather. farmers market and concerts in the park, all of that stuff's kicking off.
Yeah, the first farmers market was last Friday, and Allie Beck, who's the director of Main Street Greensburg, is so excited about this year because there were more attendance at the market last week than even like midsummer last year.
Oh, nice.
So it's been great. And she's got some really great vendors. She's got some diverse vendors this year, and the farmers market's going to be a big deal. Something that she's working on obviously every year is the kid coupons to like $1. So if you want to bring the kids out, they can get $1 from the Main Street tent, and they've got some partners that are helping support that too. And then the kids can either save them up for something, and then they just give them to the vendor and exchange that for produce or an item. I think the honey sticks are always really popular with the kids coupons. So
yes,
you'll want to bring the kids down Friday afternoons downtown. It's all on like kind of the south side, I think, this year. Just with the construction a little bit, they're trying to leave Franklin Street open a little bit more, and come on down.
Very good. Downtown in general is just like booming right now.
It is. There's a lot going on, which is great. That's what we like to see. There's some building work happening, facade work there on Main Street that a private business owner is doing. And there's been some grant dollars from Main Street's grants flowed out. And, next Friday after the farmers market is the Taylor Swift tribute band. I said the other day in an interview, I said, well, our first summer concert series, Taylor Swift. And the interviewer looked at me and was like, Taylor Swift? And I was like, well, I guess I should probably follow up with a tribute or a copycat band.
Right. Not exactly Taylor coming to town.
But we might have a better attendance if we just pubbed it as Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And then just told everyone that was Taylor Swift.
I think it works.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift next week.
They've got, that's something that Visit Greensburg spearheads. It's out at Rebecca Park. There's an opening act, and I think it starts at 6:30. I think that's right. Bring a chair, park at the high school. I'm confident there will be a trolley running back and forth, but park at the high school. That's where all the parking's at. They're expecting a very large crowd, as you might imagine.
Well, for Taylor, I mean.
Right. And they're going to be making bracelets, and they've got some other engagement activities, especially
they have fully embraced the Swiftie world, I think.
Yes, I think so. And food trucks, Tree City Brew, all of that will be out there as well. So it's going to be a big kickoff night. Hopefully we'll have great weather, but that's next Friday, June 6th. And as always, it's free. You can bring your own stuff. You just can't bring your own alcohol drinks, and come out and enjoy the activities in the park. Bring the kids, obviously. Bring all the kids' friends. Bring all the Swifties. And it'll be a lot of fun. There's been a lot of successful Swiftie events in our region. I won't give any of those a plug, but this is ours. So come on out.
It'll happen. I'm telling you. I've heard lots of chatter from lots of little people.
Yeah.
That Taylor Swift is coming. So.
And supposedly, I don't know. I'm probably not a good judge of this, but we'll see. Supposedly, this act is a very good Taylor Swift act.
Okay.
So. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. And then you've got your community night out.
That is, that's next Thursday night. So that would be on the 5th. So it's going to be a busy week next week, as always. That will be over on sort of just east of the fire station. It's going to be on Northeast Street. And that will be at between Joram. Most people don't know where Joram's at, but just north of 5th and south of 10th. That's a little bit easier. So 10th is the one that runs kind of by Stradley's dentist office over to El Reparos. So south of there, north of 5th, 6 to 8 next week. I don't know what the food is.
It was breakfast last time,
It was breakfast
right?
last. Yeah, I don't do a very good job of checking on the menu. I just trust that they're going to have all that hammered out. But that's coming up. Oh, and then one other thing that I was reminded to plug that's coming up June 7th and 8th. So here we've got Community Cookout the 5th. We've got Taylor Swift, the real Taylor Swift on the 6th. And then June 7th and 8th is actually the Indiana Department of Natural Resources Free Fishing Day.
Oh, yes.
So you don't have to have a license. Now, we typically open our reservoir up across from Honda, across from High Point, on the first and third Saturdays of the month, second, whatever it normally is. next week is not one of those weekends, really. So 7th and 8th, which is Saturday and Sunday, we're going to open that up so that people can participate in DNR's free fishing week. So if you want to go out and fish, you don't have a fishing license, you can do that. As always, no boats. You can't take any boats out on the reservoir, but you can definitely
fish. Though.
You can fish the perimeter, and a lot of people do go out there. So it will be. We open it the first and third Saturdays of the month through October 20th. And this one, June 7th and 8th, is going to be open for the free fish days. We're going to open it on the 8th, which is Sunday, which is great. And I think they usually get it open like about 8 o'clock sometime out there. So
early.
Yeah, it's pretty early. It's usually 8 to noon. So you can go out there, fish. You don't have to have a license, and enjoy that amenity.
That's right. Way to kick off summer, right?
That's right.
Very good. Anything else going on this week?
I'm sure there is, but we're out of time, and we'll cover it next week.
All right, we got it. We'll see you next week. It's
Thanks.
8:02 on Tree Country 13.